If you're in a 9 to 5 job right now and you do not like it either, you're underpaid, undervalued, you're just not happy, but you're doing nothing about it, the first thing I want to ask you is that enough for you? Are you willing to live the rest of your life like that?
Gabby Bernstein, a role model for spiritual seekers.
You know, it's funny you say I'm a born entrepreneur because I've never really felt that about myself. It actually could be true, but for so long, I never even used the word entrepreneur because it felt so fancy and big. But basically, I was a corporate girl for life. I always thought that I'd be climbing that corporate ladder. I liked to be an employee, quite honestly, because I like to climb the corporate ladder, get the rewards, the promotions, the atta girls. I really like to kind of shine in that way. But then what happened was, and I tell the story in detail in the book, but I found myself in a meeting where there were a bunch of online business owners. They were all men, but they were all online business owners, and they were talking about the businesses they created. They were talking about creativity freedom and lifestyle freedom and financial freedom and what they've created and who they've impacted. And in that moment, I thought, I don't even know what these guys are doing. Fast forward, they were doing courses and memberships and masterminds, but I didn't know at the time. All I thought was, I'm not free. I have never felt that kind of freedom, and I want to go after that. And that really just propelled me into 14 years later having the business that I have today.
I think the desire for freedom is the core driver for all entrepreneurs.
Yes, it has to be, right? I can't imagine if it wouldn't be.
Yeah, you have to have a strong longing for being untethered.
Yes. And that desire for freedom, and I love that longing to be untethered also comes with this concept that actually you helped me create in the book called unbossing. This concept that you can lead yourself, believing that you can lead yourself and that you do not need anybody else to tell you what to do or when to do it or how to do it. But being led is so ingrained in so many of us. If we've ever had a 9 to 5 job, we always have had a boss. And so being untethered and unbossing yourself and believing in yourself at that level, that does not happen overnight. And it's something I talk extensively about in the book because it's a process. It takes time. It's a journey. And you have many back steps. I tell a story in the book of almost losing my business because I gave a big portion of it to somebody else because I thought I couldn't do it myself. And then I almost lost it because, again, I wasn't totally unbossed yet.
Right.
So there's so much personal growth with entrepreneurship that I know that you talk about. And that concept of knowing you can lead yourself is one of the biggest pieces of growth that you'll see.
What was it that it took for you to know that you could lead yourself?
For me, it took a huge crash and burn. So I hate that. I wish it wasn't so dramatic, but I thought that I was unbossing myself. I went out on my own. 14 years later, I look back and think, well, I took that leap, but the first few years I went out on my own and I did my thing and it was a struggle. Probably the reason why I wrote the book is because it was such a struggle. I wanted a guidebook for others. But then I found myself 3 years in thinking, oh my gosh, I almost hit my first million, but this is hard. And what if it gets taken away from me? And what if I can't figure it out? So then someone approached me and said, I could help you. Make me a partner in your business. I could grow this with you. And it took me one night of sleep to say yes. For a business that had almost hit $1 million, one night of sleep, I woke up and said, I need help. Yes. And the part I hate to admit is it was a man. I felt like I needed a man to help me, that I couldn't do it on my own. And so that's like deeply rooted in a lot of my childhood and how I was raised. And so when he became a partner and we did great things together, but years in, I lost myself. I had literally become an employee to this person and I knew it. Getting out was really rough. So to get out meant I almost had to lose my business and just dissolve it and start over. Luckily, through the book, I explain how we figured out I didn't have to do that. But it was that moment that I thought, never again am I going to give my power away to somebody else. I'm going to start believing in myself. That was the moment I embossed. But it doesn't need to be that traumatic or take that long.
Right, right. And I think that often the core wounds that block us sometimes have to be dismantled in order for us to actually make that deeper change.
Yes, that was my story.
You talk a lot about purpose in your work and in this book. And so what would you say is the clear path to someone identifying what their purpose is in terms of their career?
So when I think about helping people identify their purpose, I actually take the word purpose out because a lot of my beginner students, it's very big, it's very overwhelming. What is my life's purpose? And they won't get started. So I talk a lot about what lights you up, what brings you joy. And I specifically actually take people through an exercise called the sweet spot in the book where I start with, what are you good at? What do people say? Oh my gosh, how do you do that? Show me. What comes natural to you? Because we often dismiss what comes natural to us thinking it's easy for everybody, and it's not. And so I start in that place. But one thing I teach that is very important for people to hear to find that thing that they're going to start in their business is that you only need a 10% edge. You don't need more and more certifications and years of education. Where you stand right now, you need a 10% edge. You just need to be 10% ahead of those that you want to serve. And one of the easiest ways to figure out who you want to serve, it usually is you just a few years ago or 5 years, 10 years ago. It doesn't have to be, but for a lot of my students, they're helping those that they understand where they've been. I've been there before you. And so that 10% edge means you just are going to get to lead them because you're 10% ahead, but you don't need to be light years ahead, which means you can start now. You don't need to make excuses. You are ready.
Mm. That readiness, I think, is some of the biggest blocks to people who are, starting a business or even just taking a leap or just doing something different. What
Yes,
is it that you feel is required for that readiness?
it takes courage. So I believe that you're not looking for confidence. You don't have confidence. To me, confidence comes when you have a proven track record. Oh, look what I did. I sold these things online and I made $1,000. Okay, I'm a little bit confident to move forward more. Courage is, I believe that I can have something different. I want something different. And getting clear about what you want. What genuinely, ultimately do you want? What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your makeup to look like? What do you want it to look like? And then saying, okay, I want that bad enough. I'm going to take a leap of faith. That's what I actually think it takes. Because if you ask me 14 years ago, were you ready, Amy, to pull out of that San Diego office of my 9 to 5 job for the very last time and be a boss? I'd say, absolutely not. I'm not ready. I think in my heart, I felt I was ready, but figuring out how to do it, no. But I wanted something bad enough. I wanted that freedom more than anything. So it was courage that pulled me out of that parking lot and into my new life.
But we all have those friends in our life that are like, oh, I hate my job. I hate my job. But they don't do anything about it.
Nothing.
And
Yes.
I really want to know what your advice is for those folks because I have so many of them in my life and I'm going to send them
Yes.
this episode. So
Yes.
tell me what you think they need to do.
Okay, so if you're in a 9 to 5 job right now and you do not like it either, you're underpaid, undervalued, you're just not happy, but you're doing nothing about it, the first thing I want to ask you is that enough for you? Are you willing to live the rest of your life like that? And most people are like, wait a second, I don't want this forever. Well, what are you doing about it? So is this good enough for you? And if you say it's good enough, I want you to reevaluate the value that you are putting to that. Because when you look around and you think, I'm not making enough money, I'm not appreciated, I'm not happy, then that is not the life that you know that you can live. So I think you have to turn inward and ask yourself, why am I staying here? The number one reason that most people stay in a job they do not want is because security. It's a regular paycheck. And financial security is a big reason why people won't leave. And what I tell them is, let's start a side hustle. Because what a side hustle does is it gives you clarity about what's possible out there. What could I maybe do long-term in the future? And when you start making a little money from a side hustle, let me tell you, it changes your perspective and you start to get really excited about what's possible. What I think is happening is a lot of people in a job that they don't love, they don't even see what's possible. They don't even know what's out there for them. Essentially why I wrote the book. I didn't know there was a whole other world out there for me till these guys came in and started talking about their businesses. And so when you start a side hustle, and I like to get tactical with that, it allows you an opportunity to start moving toward a direction that you want. and building that out. And one day that side hustle might become your full-time thing. And everything I teach in 2 weeks notice can be used for a side hustle or a full-time business.
Well, I actually can testify to the side hustle because while I never have had a boss, I did have a previous business, and I used to be in PR prior to getting sober at 25. And I had a PR business, and I was working my ass off, but also partying my ass off and destroying my life. And I also had these experiences of being a speaker, because I would go and speak for free all over the place. And I started this nonprofit called the Women's Entrepreneurial Network. We called it When. And I was actually making money that I was then putting back into it because it was a nonprofit. And I was seeing so clearly that I was so lit up and having so much fun with this side hustle of just being with women, inspiring women, giving talks. My first event I hosted, 300 women showed up to a bar. I'm not even kidding
To a
you.
bar?
Yeah, to a bar.
Love it.
And I saw that and I was like, oh, and I remember sitting at my desk, like hungover and doing my PR. And I was like, but I just want to be doing that women's entrepreneurial connection, speaking thing all the time. And so it just kind of is bestowed upon you if you just start. I really believe that.
Yes, if you just start. I've believed in the fact that action creates clarity, and you won't really know it exactly where you want to go until you make those first few actions and get out there. So that's why in the book I talk about a starter idea. Let's just get something going, just exactly like you did, to see where it might lead. And so I think why I talk about the starter idea and the 10% edge and the courage is because this is not, it doesn't have to be bigger than you think it needs to be so big, so set in stone. I need a business plan. I need a website. I need business cards. You actually don't need any of that. You just need to have the courage to get something out there to see what might happen. I didn't have a website when I first started. I didn't have a plan of exactly it was going to go down, but I did have a desire. And so anyone listening that follows you, Gabby, they know how to tune in to their heart and what they genuinely want and what they need. And I think it all starts there, even on the entrepreneurial journey. I could teach you strategies all day long, and I teach you tons of strategies in my book. But I really do think it starts with that knowing, but being courageous to listen enough to that knowing. What do you ultimately want?
Because I do think there's also a lot of people out there, and particularly I don't want to call out any specific generation. I'm just going to be nice here. But there's certain generations too that have a mindset of like, well, I saw my contemporaries start these little businesses called Facebook or, and, why not me? And that's awesome. Like, I love the like, why not me mentality. And I also want to acknowledge that running your own business is a lot of hustle and it takes a lot of work. And I see a lot of that generation kind of thinking that they can do that without the work.
Okay,
And
I love that you said this.
let's talk
Yes.
about it. Let's talk
Okay,
about it.
so this is something that I too tread lightly on because I don't want to knock what people are doing now or what's working for them. But we got to say, like a TikTok influencer, you see that and you think, oh, that's easy, which I don't think it would be easy, but that's easy and I could do that. And I'm not going to do all this work. I'm just going to start just throwing up some videos and seeing what happens. And I think that is you're trying to take a shortcut to literally this long-term opportunity that could be spectacular for you. I don't believe on cutting corners. I don't believe thinking that I don't want to do any of that, but I'm just going to do this little piece and see what works. Because what happens is it 99% of the time does not work. And those people won't continue forward. I hear people all the time say, I started, but I stopped. I started, but I stopped. I believe that a foundation of anything is essential. 2 weeks notice is the foundation to create an online business, no matter what you want to do. Influencer, courses, memberships, masterminds, physical products, whatever it might be. If you're going to use the online space to build it and to market it, you need a strong foundation. And so I don't believe in cutting corners. And if you're looking for that magic pill or that shortcut, you're not going to find it here. And I think you and I are examples of, no, we really did do it the right way. And it's hard at times. That's why you have to come back to, why do you want it? I always say the worst day of my entrepreneurship, and I could outline probably 4 or 5 really bad days, and I talk about them in the book. The worst day as an entrepreneur is still better than the best day in my 9-to-5 job because I'm free, because I'm actually making the decisions and calling the shots. And so I think there is something to be said about what we kind of see in people thinking they can just get started real quick by throwing up some videos. It's more than that, and it's way more rewarding when you actually do the work.
I also wish I had this book when I was first starting out. I had a book called How to Make a Living Without a Job. That was my book. I carried it around with me. How to Make a Living
Was it
Without
a real
job.
book?
Oh yeah, it's a book. Isn't that a great title? How to Make a Living Without a Job.
It's a great title.
I like met the author. I had her come speak to my women's entrepreneurial network. I mean, I was so into it. In retrospect, I don't really even remember if the book had that much value for me, but the title just was. I literally would like take the subway with this book in my hand. And so had I had your book, had I had 2 weeks notice, I would have really probably saved myself a lot of years of stress and started my business with more of a foundation rather than just sort of like, let's throw it in the air and see what sticks. Of course, we have to do it however we're meant to, but it's a jump start. And I think that, the thing that I know now, even when it comes to therapeutic processes, that so many of the resources that we have right now, whether it's for personal growth or entrepreneurial endeavors, the resources that are available now are people who have done all the work and are living to tell how to do it so that you can get it done faster. And so it does take a lot of work, but I'm going to teach you, I'm going to teach you the therapy and the spirituality that will help you get to a place of freedom faster. You're going to teach the entrepreneurial tips and tools and internal methods to get you to entrepreneurial freedom faster. And so it's like, it doesn't have to take as long as it took for us. And
amen.
Amen. We did the work for you.
Yes, we did.
If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.